Okay, today's class is on development and construction, more specifically commercial construction. And luckily, because we have one of our commercial agents who's been a contractor for a very long time, he's going to start with basically a foundation and a little bit of an overview, and then I'll go into some of the things I have. So, Creston, take it away. You want to come stand? You want to come on up here?
Sure.
Let's not adjust it. We'll just we won't have to.
Put his hand up.
Yeah, we'll just get him from here down.
Yeah. Well, basically, like Craig said, this is all typical construction and development, and it all starts with communication and contract, which, as we all know, are the most important as per plan in construction. Disclosures, starting dates, completion dates, zero tolerance plans, plan checks, soils reports, structural engineering. We do this all the time with all these buildings. We're constant architectural disclosures, general contractor disclosures. There again, communication with the clients, approvals as per plans. That's so important. Just like real estate, getting everything in order and getting it into escrow, open escrow, so you can close it without falling out of escrow. Same thing in construction, change orders, extras, zoning, setbacks, unforeseen, unknown factors, overall cost regarding caissons on depths to reach bedrock as per plan. Who absorbs these costs? That's why it's so important to get them into your contracts. Which may require further engineering and downtime. And again, who absorbs the downtime costs, which can be astronomical, especially if you're dealing with restaurants, commercial buildings, hotels. Any changes come under change orders and must be disclosed and signed. There's a lot on construction, especially when we're dealing with hillsides, the unforeseen. In fact, recently we have quite a few properties that are hillside projects. Flat ground, they range from $300 a square foot. When we get into hillside projects, they take a jump real quick to $400 to $600 a square foot. And to give you some figures, that goes to, in new construction, it goes to 70% of the cost of new construction is in your foundation and caissons. Which, like in the contracts, it starts off, we want to have voucher control with the lending institutions, builders and clients before we break ground. Just double check all your permits. Dig alert starts to make sure tenants and owners of the property are notified before we start construction. For ground movement, which is a big one, especially with caissons, because they can sue us for that. But if we disclose that and have them sign it, you get
Free ride.
you get relieved of that liability.
He doesn't know what a caisson is. He doesn't know what a caisson is.
Yes. What is it?
We know a builder that did that, and the people next door sued us because, well, not us, but this other firm.
Kristen, tell them what a caisson is.
Well, it's required to go down to bedrock. And that goes down, attaches to bedrock, then it comes up to your foundation, your typical foundation. But usually when engineering requires caissons, your foundations are all upgraded also with
The
grade
big
beams.
columns
Yeah,
that you build your building on, goes down to the rock so that it's solid. especially for
Almost
the
all the
commercial.
homes by the beach have that.
Yeah.
right, because it's sand, so they have to go down and anchor it to something. But basically, it's usually required on hillsides. And it gets very, very expensive. And that's why these properties are sitting that are on hillsides. Because the market value, that's your cap, and then, cost of construction is, let's just say it's a 4,000 square foot project that you want to build, and that jumps up to $600 a square foot, so that's, 2.4 million now cost of your land. So if you're the market value, let's just say, is 5 million or 4 million. You're getting close. It's too much of a risk. And that's why they don't like to build on hillsides so much. It's too risky. Let's see. Okay. Let's see down here. Okay, we have construction industry, and we can refer these agencies to you. I have all the names of these agencies on file. We have numbers of architects, builders, soils engineers, structural engineers, deputy inspectors, building inspectors, and real estate attorneys. And they're really good. We've used them all before, and we're doing it constantly. But it all comes down, what's really important is just to have good communication, which equals good contracts. And when you have good contracts, you have good communication, which puts us down to the notice of completion, which we can get because we have quality control as the project goes. Completion date is important. Typically, penalties for running over completion date is about $1,000 a day. And it could go up from there, especially if you're building a restaurant or a hotel and or type of commercial building.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Who pays the $1,000, the contractor or the person?
If you run over, that's why it's important to stipulate that into the contract. And like with the owner, and you get them to sign it and they agree if that should happen. See, all these are unforeseen and you don't know, but the thing is, when we sign the contract, we agree to get that building done on a certain date. But if something else comes in on it, that's why we have to disclose it and put it in the contract, whatever it may be, so it doesn't come back on our plate. And basically, that's why these engineers, they like to over-engineer, so it doesn't come back on their plate. So, and that always falls back onto the client to pay for that. So that's what the escalating cost of the construction. The cost of construction today is $300 a square foot on flat land plus your land. It's very expensive to build today. But if you have good communication, like I say, and good contracts, you're protected from lawsuits. And that's your best protection, is your contract and good communication. And keep your project on schedule for your notice of completion. And then they're always happy. I find that our clients are always eager to pay us because we're done on time with quality control. And that's pretty much it. As far as, terms and conditions, guidelines, and basics for all construction.
Okay.
And if you want to take it from there.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, so taking her off on there, like, let's say a project does not get completed on time. Like Kristen said, it's gonna go by what the contract says, okay? If it's the contractor's fault, they're gonna pay for it, and they can either pay for it out of their pocket, or they can do an insurance claim. Other times, it could be weather or unforeseen, then it's gonna be something that they negotiate, or if they did a good contract, it'll already be in there. I had a 250 unit apartment building that we were partners with the builder, and we did our own lease up, and it was supposed to be delivered by September, and because of LADWP, we ended up going 3 months late because it took them that much longer to do all the build out and put electric to the building. So we had everything ready, the place is pre-leased, so we had all these people that were supposed to be moving in September. So what do we have to do? We had to give refunds, we had to move them to other buildings, we had to put them in a hotel. But trying to sue or fight LADWP is, pretty much worthless. Okay, it's like, so that was not the contractor's fault. That was, it was dealing with the government. So sometimes just things get held up on construction sites, but normally it's the contractors. It's usually their fault.
You say that would be covered under your insurance. Is that with
Well,
that being
if
said?
you want to file, but you file and then your rates are going to
Rates.
go up. So basically you
Yeah.
you do a cost analysis to see,
Yeah.
are we going to eat this?
Which way to go?
Right, yeah. But luckily, we had 4 or 5 other buildings in that same area, so a lot of our tenants, we just moved to other buildings. We gave them a deal, a few, extra month rent or something like that, so, yeah. Okay, so let's go a little more into this. I just wanted you guys to get some real flavor from Creston, but this is gonna be an overview, and this is the first of a few different classes. Just so you know, you're not supposed to be experts in construction, you're not supposed to be experts in property management, but the thing is that these are all things that you have to have a little bit of knowledge of, because you're gonna be dealing with property managers, asset managers, director of real estate, owners, operators of property, and they're gonna have things on each of these commercial buildings. So you should know what type of roof goes on a commercial building, okay? You should know whether this building is made of wood or steel or what. You should know some basics, okay? So that's kind of what I'm trying to teach you guys, but development and construction, very important. The most, one is a GC, that's a general contractor, okay? And you guys have these handouts that have a lot of this detail, but I'm just gonna give you overviews, but you guys will get this, it's all on Dropbox and we can email it to you, but general contractor is basically the one that is in charge of the total project. It's not an easy license to get, but a lot of general contractors are not large enough to have all of their trades underneath them as employees. So most general contractors use what's called subcontractors, okay? And the job is going to depend on a lot on how good those subcontractors are. So the subcontractors normally get paid by the GC, but if the GC doesn't pay them, they can put a mechanics lien on the owner's property. So that's why you got to use a good general contractor, and you have to get a release not only from the GC but from all of them that they state they were paid. Okay, so that's very important. Subcontractors not getting paid is a big problem. They can put a mechanic lien on the property. Okay. Okay, so we talked about some of the reasons for delays. What do you think some of the other things besides, what do you think some of the reasons or problems that you'd have that would delay some of the construction or development?
Setbacks.
Weather.
Right.
Mother nature.
Yeah. So it's complicated. Sometimes when you're doing development deals, you'll have properties that it could take 4 or 5 years to go through rezoning and get all these permits. But when you have one, there's a big difference between getting just a piece of raw land that you got to do all that, and another one that has entitlements and is shovel ready to issue. There's a lot of different phrases in different cities, but basically it's like a property that you have to do all that is a years long proposition, especially in the city of LA or West Hollywood or any of those. So basically a property that's already entitled and ready to go, that's what most developers want. Yeah. All right. So now let's go in. What is this building here? What is it made out of?
Concrete.
Steel.
Steel and concrete.
Steel and concrete, yes. You can only go up a few stories with wood construction. That's why most high rises are going to be steel buildings, and if you use concrete in buildings like this, it's usually rebar, steel reinforced concrete. Okay. So then we'll go into different. There's 6 building construction types. Okay, and it depends on how tall they are and what the purpose is and what the budget is, but basically the 6 are wood frame, light gauge steel frame, joisted or load-bearing masonry, steel frame, concrete frame, or pre-engineered. Okay, those are the 6 main types of construction. And most buildings, commercial buildings like this, they have a flat roof. Okay, and roofs are very important. Major systems of a building, like when I would go in to do, I used to run a asset management team, and I had acquisition guys, and some of them would be financial to run the numbers, but the first thing we'd look at is we would look at the major structures of the building. Like when you look at a building like this, you don't have much problems with the windows or the flooring, okay? The issues are the roof, the fire suppression system, and the elevators, okay?
What about HVAC?
HVAC is right below that.
Okay.
You still want to know how old it is because it's expensive to fix HVAC, but if it's like within 5-10 years old, it's probably okay, but you are going to inspect it. But the elevators can kill somebody. The fire suppression system not working can kill somebody. The roof, if it leaks, it's going to cause mold. You're going to be issues with termites. Like when you have termites, it's not just the wood, it's because they need to have moisture to, along with the wood, okay? So a leaking roof is a big problem. Even though it doesn't rain that much here, when it does rain, it's a big problem because you can have electrical shortages, but it's the long-term effects of not correcting it, like mold and mildew and things like that. So just so you have some knowledge behind this, there's not that many elevator manufacturers in the US, okay? I got 6 of the largest, but the 3 that really do most of the business in LA, number 1 is Otis, number 2 is ThyssenKrupp, and 3 is Schindler. But in a lot of the new buildings that are going up, they're using a lot of Japanese, like Mitsubishi, okay? So what happened was we bought a big portfolio of buildings, like over 500 million, and like 2 or 3 of them were older and most of them were newer. So all of our newer buildings, we had Mitsubishi. And so usually you'll get like a 1-year service contract when you buy a new building where they come and service it every month as part of purchase. Then after that, you have to get a service contract, and legally you got to have a service contract, especially in LA. That means you got to have a contract with a licensed engineering elevator engineer that comes in once a month, and they do preventive maintenance and they keep your inspections up, okay? And so we had a certain elevator company that did our older buildings, and we wanted them to come and do the new buildings because the new elevators cost a lot more, but they weren't licensed through the manufacturer, so we weren't able to get the cost savings. But elevators are a huge issue because when they go down, you have handicapped residents on higher floors, it's a big mess. One of the things that you look for and that you do on any commercial buildings, whether it's a large apartment building, office, industrial, any of those, is you can get a free, it's called a fire, life, and safety inspection that the fire department can do, but you should never go through the fire department because they're just going to fine you whatever they find. So you should use a fire equipment company or a property or asset manager. And basically it's an inspection where you go around and you look to see are all their fire extinguishers and like a fire suppression system is basically like the sprinkler system, but it's also pumps, fire pumps, and it's a big part of the infrastructure of these buildings, and it's very expensive when they go down. But though the fire department comes in once a year and does these inspections, but you need to make sure that before they come that everything is up to date. But they're also going to look at exit doors, and do your exit signs work, and do you have are you blocking the fire exits, and do you have the right everything that you look for in lighting, in fire suppression, and in egress and ingress in and out of the building. Okay, so those are all big things.
I have a question. So it's our responsibility to disclose all of these items to the buyer of the property? And
if you're representing the buyer, you want to make sure that they know all about all this and that they do all of this. It's part of the inspection, but you want to make sure that if they buy, you know, $1 million building, that they're not gonna get hit with paying $300,000 or $400,000 for new, fire suppression pumps because you didn't notify them to get it checked out
So
beforehand.
basically, we're gonna have a checklist to go all the way down with all of these and verify that they've all been checked out through that agency. And then put that into the contract.
Or if it hasn't, that you deduct the price on what it's gonna be.
I see.
Yeah. And if you don't have it done, it's gonna, you know, affect your insurance. Cause this is all things that insurance companies are gonna look at too. Yeah. Okay, so roofs. Roofs are a big thing. You're gonna wanna know how old the roof is. Now, most roofs in commercial are flat roofs, okay? And there's different types. There's the old tar and gravel, which is basically where you have a undersheeting that is covered by felt, and then you have tar and then gravel on top, okay? And it's a good roof, but it's not the most energy efficient, and it's not what a lot of companies are going to now. The newer flat roofs are ones called a rollout membrane, where they just have these big rolls of rubber material that they blow down with a torch, and usually it's like a white crystal, and it reflects the sun. And those are a new one. There's solar panel roofs now. And just as an example, a flat roof can be anywhere from $1.50 to $10 per square foot. So the average 1,500 square foot little building is going to be between probably $5,000 to $15,000 for a roof. Whereas you get spray-on roofing or the rollout built-up roofing, those can cost anywhere between $10,000 and $20,000 for the same size building.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, but one of those roofs should last a lot longer without any problems.
Mhm. Yeah, most commercial roofs, you're talking like on a residential, you're probably talking 15 to 20 years, but on a commercial, you're looking like 30 to 50 years. But it really isn't gonna last that long in this sun, so you're still gonna have to maintain it, maybe patch it if, you know. So patches, sometimes you don't have to redo a whole roof. And when you're doing a roof, whether it's a small residential or a large building, some of the things that are gonna affect the cost is sometimes the undersheeting, the plywood underneath is rotten that needs to be replaced. And sometimes you have 2 or 3 layers on a roof. And if they have to take off more layers, that's gonna greatly increase the cost. Now, some of the commercial buildings we do are actually just residential homes that are now commercial. So you should know a little bit about residential roofing because it could be involved, or you might do a duplex or a triplex. But the average house in America is about 2,000 square feet. Most residential and small commercial, they have a slope roof. You know, you have with a pitch, okay, and that's to have drainage. A flat roof is a little bit more complicated with the drainage. Usually you have a gutter system to get rain off of it, okay? And now with single family homes or small commercial, they're normally gonna have the least expensive roof covering, and that's called asphalt shingles. That's like a regular shingle. And for the 2,000 square foot house, that's gonna cost between $7,000 and $12,000. But you can go all the way up, you know, you got wood shingles, that same house is gonna be $14,000. Slate, does anybody know what slate is?
It's good for, helps with fires too.
Yeah, slate is actually, it's actually rock, and it's like wood. It's hard to explain, but it's actually like wood that they've made into like a flat shingle, and it goes on. It's like on like old, like think about like Hancock Park, like Tudor style, very old homes. Okay, and one of those slate, that's going to cost $25,000 to $50,000 to do a roof in that. Same clay tiles, okay? You might have also heard of it as a barrel tile roof. Like some of these old Mediterranean style houses or in luxury, it's like They look like this, you know, like Italian.
Right.
It's like, yeah, they
The
can
red
be like
ones.
red clay,
Right.
but you know, they can be half or full barrel tiles. And that roof is gonna cost between $25,000 and $50,000 on a small little 2,000 square foot house, okay? Then one of the most expensive that can last over 100 years is copper. Copper, you know how you can have like a tin roof? Like on a, you know, out in the country, they just have like tin roof buildings. Well, that same type of metal can be made into copper sheets, and it's very expensive. But after a while, if it's treated, it will stay the copper color. But normally, people like it to get like the patina on it after a while. But copper is like a permanent; it doesn't rust. So a copper roof will last you forever. But there are some you know, once in a great while that will be copper. Okay.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of gutters also out of the copper,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
nice on the high end. It's
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful, like you say with the patina.
Yeah.
Down at the beaches and so forth.
Copper, when it ages, turns like the Statue of Liberty, because the Statue of Liberty was like it was like a coin. It was like a penny when it was new, but it turned that green because it's the copper that gets that green patina. Okay, so how much time do we have?
26 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so one thing that I have in here that is fitting for California is our buildings, the new ones, have to be earthquake retrofitted, okay? Now in old buildings, they sometimes will retrofit a building existing, and basically on skyscrapers, what they do is they actually will have like springs underneath. So if a building is rigid, when an earthquake comes, it will just collapse. If it can move, if it has sway in it, it will survive a bigger earthquake, okay? So that's kind of what retrofitting is to allow the building to have some sway. Now, if you drive around the valley, we got hundreds of these apartments that the downstairs is where the cars park and the apartment is above that. Have you ever seen those? Mm-hmm. They're called soft story. And the city has made it illegal, and the city has also set up a fund to help owners to pay to fix this. So what they do is the owner has there's like a 3-year deadline. They've already started, so a lot of owners are already doing this, but they borrow money, very low interest through this fund, and they will move out all the people up top and they'll start construction. And what they do is they brace this downstairs with steel beams, and it goes all the way down to bedrock. And they reinforce this whole bottom floor and then, you know, fix all the stucco and make it look nice again. But that is a California, an LA city requirement now, that all these buildings have to be reinforced in the next few years. So you'll see all these like companies all over that are doing this, and they're doing it because this building will just flatten like a pancake in a big earthquake. And it's a design flaw that never should have been, you know, allowed. Okay.
I've noticed also a lot of apartment buildings are for sale now for that reason, because they want to avoid the retrofitting costs.
Yeah, so basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna find out if it got retrofitted, then the building's worth more. If not, you're gonna discount whatever the price is gonna be off the price. Because even though they have a fund, it's still a disruption, it's still a pain to do. If they don't wanna move, you gotta do eviction. It's a pain. So of course it's better if you find them, it's already done. But some owners, they want properties that are below market rent, and they can go in and rehab it and increase the rent, and then they can either keep it as a long-term hold, or they can go ahead and flip it for more money. The rule for investors, mostly for apartments, but it applies to any of commercial buildings, but if they can't recoup their investment costs on the rehab within 18 to 24 months on the increase, normally it's not worth doing. Which means, you know, they put in $3,000 into this unit, they better be able to increase the rent at least 200, 150, 200, 300 a month over the next 24 to 48 months, or else it's not worth doing, because if it takes 6 years, by the time 6 years are up, that all those improvements are like, no good anymore anyway.
I think the city's made it hard too, rent control, considering most of the rent control properties are soft-sided structures.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you know what's the most amount you can increase rent per year in rent control in LA?
I think it just went up to 4%.
Just went from 3 to 4, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Okay.
4%.
All
And
right.
just the beginning of the month, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Anybody have any questions of me or Preston? I do have. Yes.
30 minutes.
What's that?
30 minutes, yeah.
10 minutes. What?
30
Your
minutes.
record
She's saying
and
you're at
Harlan.
30. on the
Oh,
recording.
good. Okay.
Harlan, can you record that then?
I can record up to an hour on that.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
You got
But
2 minutes.
we like to keep it to 30 minutes, just so you guys, we know you're in a hurry and you get
Yeah.
bored after a while, so that's why. But we have extra material that has a lot more detail afterwards. But does anybody have any questions about any of the construction or development stuff? Okay, thank you for coming. Everyone have a good day.
Thank you. Can I get a copy?